Die and Where Die, Chapter 1. My first contact with white America was marked by her violence, for when a white doctor pulled me from between my mother's legs and slapped my wet ass, I, as every other Negro in America, reacted to this man-inflicted pain with a cry that America has never allowed to cease, a cry that gets louder and more intense with age, a cry that can only be heard and understood by others who live behind the colored curtain. A cry? Or was it a scream? Whatever it was, we accepted it. I had been born in America, the land of the free. To ensure my country's freedom, my father was somewhere fighting, for this was a year of the Second War to end all wars, World War II. This was October 4th, 1943, and victory was in the air. The world would now be safe for democracy. But who would ensure my freedom? Who would make democracy safe for black people? America recognized long ago what Negroes now examine in disbelief. Every black birth in America is political. With each new birth comes a potential challenge to the existing order. Each new generation brings forth untested militancy. America's ruling class now experiences what Herod must have at the birth of Christ. Go and search, and when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. America doesn't know which black birth is going to be the birth that will overthrow the country. The threat to America, however, does not exist in Negro America, but rather as a result of Negro America. If one examines the structure of this country closely, he will note that there are three basic categories. They are white America, Negro America, and black America. The threat to the existing structure comes from black America, which exists in contradiction to both white and Negro America. It is the evolution of these contradictions that has given rise to the present revolutionary conditions. Revolution is indeed inevitable, and as the cycle of change closes around America's racist environment, the issue of color becomes more pertinent. Color is the first thing black people in America become aware of. You are born into a world that has given color meaning, and color becomes the single most determining factor of your existence. Color determines where you live, how you live, and under certain circumstances, if you will live. Color determines your friends, your education, your mother's and father's jobs, where you play, and more importantly, what you think of yourself. In and of itself, color has no meaning, but the white world has given it meaning: political, social, economic, historical, physiological, and philosophical. Once color has been given meaning, an order is thereby established. If you were born black in America, you were the last of that order. As kids, we learn the formula for the structure of American society. If you're white, you're all right. If you're brown, stick around. But if you're black, get back, get back. Because of the importance assigned to color, Negroes choose only to legitimize two Americas, white and Negro. When one examines the way in which these two Americas are structured, it is obvious that the similarities between them are greater than the differences. The differences exist only in the external control of each and their internal order, which in turn create value contradictions. In other words, whites control both white America and Negro America for the benefit of whites. And because of this kind of external control by whites in their own self-interest, Negroes who structure their communities after those of whites are forced to enforce values of whites. They attempt to explain away their lack of control by saying that they are just members of the larger community of Americans. A monologue is perpetually expounded by white America, which is echoed by Negroes afflicted with white patriotism. White America: think white or I'll kill you, and if you think too white, I'll kill you. Negro America: think white or I'll kill you, and if you think too white, the man will kill you, so think colored. Imitate the white man, but not to perfection in front of him. As Julian Moreau says in his book, Black Commandos, attitudes necessary for survival were vigorously pounded into the woolly heads of black boys and girls by their loving mothers. The boys were reared to be Negroes, not men. A Negro might survive a while, but a black man did not live very long. A black boy aiming to reach manhood rather than Negrohood rarely lived that long. For 400 years, the internal contradictions and inconsistencies of white America have been dealt with through its institutions. In regard to race or color, these contradictions have always been on a national, never a local or individual level. Whites as individuals have always loved to be thought of as superior. They have always known that if they could justify and make their actions legal, either through their religion, their courts, or their history, education system, then it would be unnecessary to actually rectify them because a Negro would accept their interpretation. White America's most difficult problem thus becomes how to justify and not rectify national inconsistencies. If white nationalism is disguised as history or religion, then it is irrefutable. White nationalism divides history into two parts, BC and AD, before the white man's religion and after it. And progress, of course, is considered to have been taken place only after the white man's religion came into being. The implication is evident. God is on the white man's side, for white Jesus was the Son of God. White America has used religion and history to its advantage. Thus, the North really never differed from the South, for they both taught the same history. Catholics never differed from other religions, for they taught from the same text. Republicans are no different from Democrats, as Democrats are no different from Dixiecrats. As for liberals, Fanon says that they are as much the enemy of oppressed people and freedom as a self-avowed enemy, because it is impossible to be both a member of the oppressor class and a friend of the oppressed. So we can see that for white America, the only real contradictions are those that arise from the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment of her Constitution. These contradictions give rise to Negro America. Most black persons of my time were born into Negro America. The first thing you learn is that you are different from whites. The next thing you learn is that you are different from each other. You are born into a world of double standards where color is of paramount importance. In your community, a color pattern exists which closely akin to the white man's, and likewise reinforced from both ends of the spectrum. Light-skinned Negroes believe they are superior, and darker Negroes allow them to operate on that behalf. Light-skinned Negroes believe that they are superior, and darker Negroes allow them to operate on that belief. Because of the wide color range which exists in Negro America, an internal color colony has been created. Dark Negroes are taught that they are inferior not only to whites, but to lighter-skinned Negroes, and lighter-skinned Negroes assume a superior attitude. Negro America is set up the same way as white America. The lighter-skinned a Negro, the more significant a role he can play. It has always been the one who looked white who made it in Negro America. This was the man with the position, the influence. This was the man who usually got the white man's best job. In between light Negro America and black Negro America, in terms of color, there's a special category of people who are assigned the name of red N-words. These people, who are light enough to go into light Negro America, but do not have Caucasian characteristics. They don't have straight hair or white features, so they can go either way depending on them. They can operate in black Negro America or at the outer fringes of light Negro America. Race prejudice in America becomes color prejudice in Negro America. That which is cultural prejudice by whites against blacks becomes class prejudice in Negro America. To distinguish themselves, Negroes assign class distinctions. Here we find the instituting and substituting of parallel values. Negroes assume that what is good for white America is good for Negro America. Negroes are always confined to what can be called the shit regiment. I first became acquainted with the shit regiment in the Cub Scouts. In every parade, we always marched behind the horses, which meant that we always had to march in horse shit. All the way through life, there are shit regiments in the Negro community, and Negroes adhere to them. As a matter of fact, Negroes would protect these regiments. The debate was never whether or not we had to march, but whether or not the whites were going to put machines down to wash the horse shit away before we marched in it. There was never any discussion as to whether or not we should march behind these horses. Everybody accepted that. They just want the horse shit washed out of the way before we came through. White America's largest shit regiment is Negro America. Given that Negroes are a colonized people, the most important phase of colonization is a subcultural phase. In Negro America, Negroes relate only to Negroes of the same educational background. Dr. So-and-so talks only to Dr. So-and-so, and the brother on the block better not act like he thinks he can go up to Dr. So-and-so and talk to him man to man. To Dr. So-and-so, the brother on the block is nothing but an N-word who is holding the race back. Dr. So-and-so goes to the Episcopal Church, the Presbyterian, or the Catholic Church. The brother on the block goes to the Baptist Church, the Holy Rollers, or the Sanctified Church, and the Methodist Church is between the two. It ain't as N-wordish as the Baptist church, but it's not as high class as the Episcopal church. As Negroes become more white educated, the transition in religion begins. All of a sudden, it's beneath them to go to church and shout and get happy. That's not dignified. As they get more educated, their religion gets more like the white man's religion, as if their heaven will be segregated too. Education even extends down to the naming of children. The more educated the Negro becomes, the more European names he picks for his children. Michelle, Simone, Hubert, Whitney. All of a sudden, Sam and Bertha Lee ain't good enough anymore. In other words, values are assigned to names. Names must now be more than functional. The poor Negro doesn't aspire to be white. He just wants to make it into Negro America. So he works hard all his life and finally rents a little house and puts some furniture in it, which he keeps covered with plastic so it won't get dirty. And he gets mad if anyone sits on it because he's trying to imitate Negro America. Once he gets into Negro America, he learns some so-called middle-class values, white values. Then he wants to get into white America. When he tries to enter white America, he is rejected. The doors are shut. Even if he has a big job in some white firm, if he's one of the only Negroes, he still finds out that he's black when it's quitting time. The white workers go their way and leave him to go his. They're nice and friendly on the job and all buddy-buddy, but that doesn't go outside the office. They don't want their friends thinking that they're N-word lovers, so this sets up a reaction in the N-word. He gets frustrated and tries to live a contradiction, and that's why when the rebellions start, he's all for them. He doesn't have the courage to admit it to the white man. When the white folks he works with ask him what he thinks about the riot, he says it's hurting the cause and all sorts of bull like that. But that night after work, he breaks records getting home to watch it on TV, cheering like a motherfucker the whole time. Take the Washington, D.C. rebellion, for instance. They arrested something like 3,000 people, and when they booked them, they found out that the great majority of them worked for the government. Had jobs, making money. Still, these are the dudes who were out in the street. In Detroit, it was the same thing. It wasn't only the unemployed brother. It was the one who was bringing home $110 every Friday. It was the one who had a Thunderbird and some clean vines. He was the one who tried to enter white America and had found that no matter what he did, he was still an N-word to the white man. Those black people who remain in the black community, however, remain a viable force. They don't have the frustrations that exist in Negro America. In black America, the bonds are tighter. The fight is for freedom, not whiteness. Negroes have always been treated like wild, caged animals by the white man, and have always felt the passions of caged animals, because they were living in cages, but they would always act civilized with whites. That is, what white people told them was civilized. But inside this civilized Negro was an undying hate. This hate, however, could only be released in Negro America. If it was ever released into white America, it would prove to white people that Negroes were savages. That hate became self-hate. So to preserve their sanity, their humanity, and their white civilization, Negroes had to hate themselves, and when they hated, they distinguished between those who were most like white people and those who were black. And they hated black people and poor Negroes. Poor Negroes are those black people with the values of Negro America, but not the means. It is clear that the revolution will not come from Negro America, but from Black America, and Black America is growing. Black America is important because it is here that you will find the self-imposed exiles from both white and Negro America. Black America has always offered blacks human freedoms, a humanism uncommon to white and Negro America. Some enter Black America because Negro America rejects darker-skinned Negroes, and of course, if a person is rejected by Negro America, he is automatically rejected by white America. Other people enter Black America because of some experience they had in their childhood. Still others, because of something they may have read that was written by someone in Black America. Black America has existed ever since the first slave despised the injustice that was done to him and did not seek to accommodate himself to that injustice. Thus, there have always been people who could articulate these injustices and could discuss what the response to these injustices should be. It is self-evident that people always rebel against oppression, and there has been one continuous rebellion in America since the first slave got here.